Hello everyone, this is Mark Moncrief from the Melbourne Traditionalists, and this is episode 23 of the Melbourne Traditionalists podcast. I have with me David Hiscock from XYZ. How are you, David?
Very good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, we're going to do a bit of movie reviews.
Just for a change, huh?
You've been... well, we've had 1 week off, and now we're back to it.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about the movies that we're going to review.
Okay, so we're going to look at The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, the number 9 movie in the Star Wars saga.
Yeah, I went and supported that evil band of... I supported Pat Wood, and I went and watched the last Star Wars movie. I also watched one of your favourite movies, The Last Valley.
Oh, very good.
And it was a very enjoyable movie. I've got some things which I can critique the movie on, some things which I found really, really interesting. It will make for an interesting discussion.
All right, well, let's start with Star Wars. Now, they're saying that this is the last of the Star Wars movies. I have my doubts about that.
Oh, they'll keep making them for sure.
But this is apparently the last of the main saga.
Yes, it's a lot. Yeah, so they've found a way to tie it all off. They've essentially remade the trilogy of the first trilogy. Like, The Force Awakens was was a remake of A New Hope.
Yep.
The Last Jedi, I think maybe somebody thought that they were remaking The Empire Strikes Back because they understood the concept of down, up, down. Because if you look at the original Star Wars trilogy, it's down, up. Up, down, up.
Yeah.
They win, they lose, they win again.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi was hands down the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. There was no story. The rebels, they basically for no reason at all spend their entire time running. Mm-hmm. There's an admiral who at the end of the movie does a suicide attack which breaks all the laws of physics which they've set up in their Star Wars lore.
Yep.
All the way. Before then, they destroyed the character of Luke Skywalker simply because they seem to hate strong white males from the past. And and you just had this Mary Sue who just had no life to her. So that was an awful movie. So this one, they remade Return of the Jedi. The Emperor comes back. The whole galaxy joins forces.
I've heard people say invalidates the Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
Because in Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader turns against the Emperor and defends his son.
Yes.
And he kills the Emperor, and the Emperor's no more.
Yes.
And all that is undone because the Emperor survives.
Oh, I'm not too upset about that. Like, if we deal with plot holes to start off with, because I actually haven't seen any of the reviews yet of Star Wars.
That's all I've seen. I've just seen some reviews.
Okay. Because in some of the extended universe books, they bring the Emperor back. So I didn't have a problem with bringing the Emperor back. Yes, there are lots of plot holes. There are lots of corny moments in the movie. If you could do an hour's worth of stuff going, this was wrong, that was wrong, that was wrong. Yeah. Fair enough. You could actually do that about all the originals. They're even there's footage of original bloopers from the original movies. Like in A New Hope, there's actually a scene where one of the stormtroopers bangs his head on a door going up.
Yeah.
But they left that in the original movie.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff.
There's no such movie as New Hope.
A New Hope.
It's called
Star Wars. It's called Star Wars. Yeah, it was original.
They renamed it in the 90s.
Yeah.
I can't believe that you even go along with it. You pretend to go along with it.
Well, yeah, as you say, the original Star Wars, like it's got everything you need. It's got the story of the boy who becomes a man and takes down an empire, and you don't need any more than that. Yeah. So if you want to talk about plot holes, I'll leave that to all the professional reviewers and all that sort of stuff. In terms of like a movie in itself, I was satisfied watching the movie just as watching a spectacle again. Like, it actually had a story. The rebels actually turned around and fought.
Yeah.
They found ways of resurrecting just some of the awfulness from the last movie. Like they found ways of reinterpreting what Luke Skywalker had done to make him look like not a complete loser.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see him respected. It was nice to see that character respected. They actually found a way of humanizing Rey as well, both in just like it looks like they actually took in some of the criticism and showed her actually struggling to do a few things, and then the explanation for why she is who she is made sense, and as in like it made sense why she was so powerful in the first place. It was even to the point, like watching the movie, you could even just erase The Last Jedi from the whole canon, just ignore it, just go straight from Force Awakens to this one.
Yeah.
You're not missing much, basically. You're fine. So in that respect, like they did a good way of just cancelling that out.
Yeah.
One little thing that had upset me about both the way that they got rid of the character of Han Solo and the character of Luke Skywalker, in both cases there was no real grief. Like in the Force Awakens, when Han Solo dies, you see Leia notices it shakes her, but then she keeps on going.
Yeah.
In this one, when Chewie finds out that Leia has died, like he just breaks down. Like you're seeing Chewbacca, like the mighty Chewbacca just breaks down and just can't handle it. So that was actually good to actually see proper grief at the death of one of these like archetypal characters in these movies. Like they're very important characters. So like in terms of just a movie, it's actually a good movie.
All right.
Yeah. Yes, it's got plot holes. Yeah. There's some just, but it might be partly because the last movie was so bad.
Yep.
I like this one. Also, like you know how I sort of did that sort of like understanding what Hollywood is, and understanding how they boil the frog on us.
Yeah.
Still being able to enjoy a movie, knowing what you're watching and knowing the propaganda that you're watching. I'm aware of all that, so I make that disclaimer.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember even in the 80s, my parents didn't like Star Wars because of the Buddhist messages in it.
Well, that's true. It's very heavily Buddhist.
Yeah. Then we just get to the cultural Marxism, and that's really where, you know, if you're going to pull apart the movie, that's where you really got to pull it apart. There's a scene where like you've got Han Solo talking to Adam Driver in the movie. So Adam Driver has just had a big lightsaber fight with Rey. So the character Ren has had a big lightsaber fight with Rey. He gets a vision of his father, Han Solo, at the end, because during that fight he turns back to the good side. Spoilers. So it's supposed to be like a key scene. All I saw was two Jews talking to each other.
All right.
Yeah, it's just having been red pilled. There are just moments in movies now where you can't see it just as a movie. Like all I see are two Jews here pretending to be white guys.
Yeah.
Pretending to be us, pretending to represent us, and I can't remember what they said to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stormtroopers, as usual, they're presented as being flat track bullies, but then whenever they come up against the rebels, they're basically there for target practice. So they're the archetypal Nazi.
Yep.
They're not. We don't see Germans as Germans. We see Germans as Nazis in war movies now, and it's okay to just massacre them by the lot. Like with stormtroopers, they're basically space Nazis.
Yeah.
And in the same way that Europeans now, especially if we try to sort of present any kind of nationalist ideas, we're basically presented as Nazis, and it's okay to massacre us.
Yep.
And so that's how the whole empire is set.
Yep.
They do have black people in the empire now, but they're also like there's a scene where like there's a black chick who's part of the resistance now, and she's talking to Finn, who is part of the resistance, and they're both black, and they're both deserters. Like she used to be a stormtrooper, and she's talking about how like a whole unit just mutinied and all this sort of stuff. And so it's basically they're trying to sort of tell the story of World War II and slavery, but in space. Yeah. And they're trying to present white guys as the bad guys, because all the key players in the Empire, First Order, Last Order, whatever you want to call them, they're all white guys. Yeah. And that just becomes really, really apparent at the end once they've won. Because again, they're trying to remake the celebration scene from Return of the Jedi, where they all come down to Endor and party with the Ewoks. One of the things that I love about, and I love pointing this out about the end scene of Return of the Jedi, when they're partying with the Ewoks, there's a bit where you hear this, like the Ewoks have these mallets, and they're hitting the helmets of all the different helmets of the stormtroopers. You've got like half a dozen different types of stormtrooper helmets there. And they're all making different sounds. It's all very funny, very musical. Great. The Ewoks ate the stormtroopers.
All right.
Yeah. Yep. So they've tried to recreate all of that scene again. What you've got here is even more multicultural, because like the Ewoks are supposed to represent the Vietnamese who fought against Americans in the Vietnam War. Like George Lucas has actually said that. Here you've basically got humans and aliens all embracing. You've got humans of all different colours embracing, and there is a lesbian kiss.
Yep.
At the end as well.
All right.
Yeah. There's a weird group hug between Rey, Poe Dameron, and Finn, which kind of implies, and there's been like some sexual tension between Poe and Rey, between Finn and Rey, and a few other people and Rey, all the way through the movie. There's kind of like this implication that there's going to be a bit of a throuple at the end. It's basically, watching that scene is how I feel about the whole 20th century. Yep. The whole 20th century is a story of Westerners fighting against what we've been told is the greatest evil of all time, only to throw it all away, just for nothing, and just to let ourselves be replaced. Yep. Watching that scene was like watching, okay, this is the last of the nine. Like, they've finally defeated the great evil. And all I'm getting here is full-on multiculturalism and cultural Marxist degeneracy shoved down my throat. Fuck you, Star Wars. Like, that's how I feel at the end of it all. Yeah. One more thing which I did like about the movie, they actually, again, they sort of paid tribute to a little bit of the extended universe stuff. Like, the Emperor had been hiding in this region of the galaxy, which was difficult to find because of they've got all this weird science stuff that makes that part of the galaxy difficult to find. So again, they actually brought that in. It's like they were trying to make it up to the fans. But just this one scene right at the end, I just wanted to just scream. It's
so was it the final straw, or was it the thing that broke you out of the magic, I guess, of the film?
I guess I was there. Basically, I didn't want to go see the movie, but I was there just out of loyalty to my brother. Yeah. Because we've just been watching it all the way through, and I'm like, I gotta go all the way through. I've just got to see this to the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And it had actually been a half decent movie, and I wanted to just enjoy watching a movie. But then you just had one of those moments where the cultural Marxism was just so freaking obvious. There'd been moments all the way through where I'd seen, they've ticked that box, they've ticked that box, they've ticked that box. But I was able to ignore it because I was able to keep focusing on the movie. This is like right at the end. Basically, they've just massacred a whole bunch of white guys, and now you have this multicultural mix celebrating. And I'm like, I think it's one of those things which the longer it's been since, the angrier I'll get. Yeah. And that's when I know that like there's something seriously wrong with it, when it doesn't get better. Like sometimes, you know how like sometimes you get angry about something and then you get over it. for me, this will be something which the longer it's been since that final scene where they're celebrating, the angrier I'll get, because I'm like, no, you're going to make a lot of people angry.
Well, I must say, the reviews I've heard have been mixed.
Yeah.
People have said the spectacle is fantastic.
It is.
It's worthwhile seeing just for the spectacle.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile seeing because it is the end of the triple trilogy.
You just want to know how they do it. How are they going to do it?
Yeah. And there were some... they redeemed themselves in the characters that they had stuffed up. Like you said, Luke Skywalker, Rey, so forth. But they also said that the first 40 minutes was just way overcomplicated.
Oh, I didn't find it that way.
All right.
I'm used to getting a lot of information very quickly.
Yep.
Where you just have to.
Well, you're an
adjust.
editor, so yes.
Maybe, yeah. There were a few moments where I was watching and I'm like, there's no real explanation for why these two characters are having this conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm used now. Maybe it's because Hollywood movies do this so badly, do this bad thing so consistently, that I'm used to actually just going, okay, that's how it is. Let's go with it.
Yeah. But they also said that they weren't fully satisfied with the movie.
Oh. That
they just found that it was lacking.
Oh.
And I wonder whether it's that subconscious realization. For you, it's conscious realization that this is just a massive slap in the face.
Maybe, because I was well and truly I was getting strong inklings with The Force Awakens and with Rogue One, and then the Return of the Last Jedi. It was one of those moments. There were a number of things around 2016 to 2017 that just broke me, and a whole dam broke. And it's like my whole world changed.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So watching this, it's like I'm going in knowing exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. Now, I think that we'll finish there with the last... No, it's not The Last Jedi.
The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Which is a bizarre title for the very last movie in the triple trilogy.
Yeah, again, I think even the title, they were trying to basically say to their fans, please take us back.
Yeah. Let's go to The Last Valley.
Yeah, really interesting movie.
So for those who didn't see the episode where I talked about my favourite movies, The Last Valley is set in the 30 Years' War. Only 2 English language movies that I know that are set during the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648 in Europe. And it's about a mercenary company that finds a valley, the last valley, untouched by war, and at the same time, a scholar who's fleeing from the fighting also finds the valley, and what happens then. Now, I own the movie. I lent it to you. You watched it over the last week or so.
Yeah, and we reviewed it in the episode Mark's 5 favourite movies.
That's correct.
Yeah, I found it a really interesting movie. I'm really glad I watched it. I enjoyed it. There are a few moments where I'm like, but like you get that with every movie. I guess where we'll start. You in your review you talked about like it's basically the interaction between 4 alphas. In the movie, you've got the scholar. You've got the captain, played by Michael Caine. Well, the scholar is, what's it?
Omar Sharif.
Omar Sharif. The captain is Michael Caine. You've got, what's his name? Not Lugar. The chief, the chief of the movie.
The mayor, effectively,
the mayor,
even though he's not called that.
Yes. It doesn't matter. His name.
Devonport.
Okay. And then you've got the priest. And they're all magnificent characters. They've all got quite a lot of depth, and they all act. This is great. Like almost to the end of the movie, anyway. They all act rationally.
Yes, yeah. I absolutely agree with that.
I think the mayor, to me, is the only one who acts completely rationally the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think Michael Caine, the captain...
Nigel Davenport was the Gruber. He's Gruber.
That's it.
The mayor. And then there's Father Sebastian, who's obviously the priest, and that's played by Per Oscarson.
Yes, yeah. The other three right at the end, I don't think make completely rational decisions.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what I sort of referred to as writers inserting themselves in the story, or if that was genuinely part of the story.
Yep.
Like for me, a good movie is you don't notice the fact that you're being told a story. Like the story just writes itself.
Yeah. And I agree that up until that point, you can get lost in the story.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, say the last 15 minutes or so, you think to yourself, they're bringing the story to a conclusion.
That would be my one criticism. It felt like maybe it could have gone on another hour, but maybe they're like, hey, how are we going to finish this thing? Because like the setup was just amazing, I thought.
Yeah.
Because you've basically got this really uneasy peace in the valley, because.
And isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
so you have these four characters, these, as you said, alpha males. That they all have power, but none of them have enough power.
It was like a balance of power.
Exactly.
It? Yeah. It was like a Treaty of Westphalia right in that valley.
And they all had to cooperate with the others, even though they didn't like them.
Yes.
They wished ill upon them.
Yes.
But they still had to make it work.
Yeah. Just to go into depth into that, for I know we're spoiling some of the movie, but I found it really interesting the way they set it up. So the scholar has been told,
called Vogel.
Vogel has been told by the captain, we are keeping you alive because we need you to mediate between us and the people of the village.
Yes.
And you will stay alive as long as you're useful to us. And so then the captain and his band of mercenaries, they're the ones with...
They're a pretty vicious bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. And they kill without compunction. And they kill each other.
Yes. To
enforce the rules. And even, like, there's actually one scene where, like, it just kills because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
They go into the valley, they're saying, okay, we have the weapons. We could massacre you all right now if we wanted, but it's in our interest to stay here and winter here, because that way we know we've got food for the whole winter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a scene where Gruber is talking with his advisors, and they're saying, look, we could actually probably kill them in their sleep, but they've got patrols at night. Mm-hmm. So there are some who are awake while the others are sleeping. B, we don't really have weapons or the training. We might be able to pull it off, but there's too high risk of it not working.
Yeah.
And then you've got the priest in there as well, who like for almost the entire movie acts like a proper priest.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he considers the mercenaries to be completely evil.
Yes.
And it maybe even otherworldly.
Uh-huh.
And he's waiting for, as he says, I'm waiting for a sign.
Uh-huh.
That will actually, then I will know what to do.
Yes. Yes.
And but at the same time, he is a priest. Yes. And he acts like you would expect a village priest to act in that time.
Yes. 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 His actions definitely. The way the character acts. And
the way he carries himself, he's very manly.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. This is one of my critiques of the movie.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, like, I always see that ramping up of the cultural Marxism.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big difference between movies which have been written by Christians, like genuinely by Christians.
Yep.
There's a movie of The Man for Four Seasons, which is genuine. Like, everything in it comes across as genuine. Like, you see genuine faith. But the ones which aren't written by Christians, there's a certain way that the actors, they just put a little bit. It's like they overact.
Yeah.
And the things that they say are a little bit too stereotypical.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it's not been written by a Christian, and you get that impression with this movie.
Yeah.
Even though the priest does act rationally,
mm-hmm.
He overacts a little bit.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you can watch it and simply say that's his personality. He's a little bit over dramatic.
We've all known those types.
Yeah, exactly.
He seems a little. He doesn't seem Protestant. He seems Pentecostal. yeah.
But so you can take him seeing the exact same scene and take it more than one way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So if we
and as I said in my review, I've watched it probably 60 times. So
right.
I've viewed it as in both.
Understood.
Both ways. Yeah.
Understood. Well, let's lead back to like where I think the priest doesn't act rationally. We'll lead to that another way. There's an amazing scene. Actually, I'll preface this amazing scene with another amazing scene. There's a bit where
and that's the thing. There are many amazing scenes in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Just for pure acting.
Yes, it's a great screenplay.
Yeah.
One of the deals that the captain forces on the village is that they have to give up half a dozen women.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
For the men.
That's right. For the mercenaries.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene where the captain says to the mayor, we want these women. And the mayor says, "Oh, maybe we can find some." And he goes, "Hey, either you get them, or you'll find a whole bunch of widows by this evening."
yes. And so they get what they want.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, you actually have the scholar, I think, saying to the captain, "Well, the issue of the wives, the issue's been settled."
Yeah.
That's what he uses the word settled. Like in the actual scene where they get married, essentially, or get handed over, the guys literally pick up the women, and like multiple guys picking up the one woman and taking her into their house.
That's right. They're not getting married. They're basically, as the priest says, they're making a sacrifice, just like Christ made a sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Right? And their suffering will save the village as Christ's suffering saved the world.
Yes.
Right? So they're a sacrifice in a sense.
Absolutely, and it's settled.
Yeah, that's right.
and then interestingly, the captain says, "Oh, we can't let them get too comfortable. We've got to keep shaking it up, otherwise they'll massacre us." But then the captain then makes a further demand of Gruber. The captain wants Gruber's wife.
Yes.
And so then there's an amazing scene with dice, because they decide to they decide, okay, how are we going to settle who gets your wife? Let's roll dice. And so with the first roll, the captain gets it. The second roll, Gruber gets it. The third roll,
and they're cumulative. Each roll, there's three.
Yes.
Each makes 3 rolls, and they're added to up.
Yes, that's right. Of course, yes. And so then with the third roll, it clearly favours Gruber, but neither of the men look at the dice, and
they're looking at each other.
Yeah, and they tell the wife to tell them how much it is, and the wife lies and says that the number favours the captain. So she chooses the captain.
That's right.
Yeah, which is.
Right. The captain rolls last. He gets 3.
Yeah.
Which means he would have lost.
Yeah.
But she said he got 11.
Yeah.
And then Gruber looks down. Who's the mayor? Looks down at the dice, sees what she's done.
Yeah.
And before the captain can look, he just swipes the dice off the table.
Yeah.
And walks out.
Yeah.
And that's a great little piece too. He doesn't want to. He's the captain's won, but he doesn't want to see that he's won.
Yeah.
And how he's won.
Yes. Yeah. And
it reveals a lot about the characters. Just that little bit.
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why it's actually a very good movie, because it shows human nature without any of that PC rubbish. There's no cultural Marxism in that moment.
Yeah.
Like that's just showing pure power, pure sexual market value.
Yeah.
Just as you mentioned before, like that's game right there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else there, and it's really, really key scene, great scene.
Yeah.
So through the course of the movie, turns out the wife is actually a witch.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And eventually, and the captain finds out, but he doesn't care because he doesn't believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the end of the movie, the priest finds out that the wife is a witch.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to burn her.
Yep.
At that point, I was like, oh my God, this movie has been so based already. They're actually going to burn the witch. But then this was, for me, this was the point where the movie like lost it. At the end. Because the priest is obviously flogging her, and you hear her wailing and all this sort of stuff, and then you see the priest. They're sort of, he's going up to the pyre, and he's going, oh yeah, her sins are forgiven. And he says it with this kind of strange look on his face and the tone in his voice.
Like a sexual satisfaction.
Yes. And so they're basically, this is the writers inserting themselves in the story, making...
And it's, you're quite right, it is so out of character for the rest of how he's been portrayed.
Yeah, because like in the scene where she gets put on the fire, the scholar kills her so she doesn't at least have to have the agony of being on the fire, and then another soldier throws
the priest
on the fire.
Jumps on the fire himself, which is always very bizarre.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something. There's in the very first season of Blackadder.
Yeah.
There's witch smeller pervasive, and that scene is played out in one of the episodes.
Right.
In that episode.
Okay. Right. So yeah, this was basically the writers inserting themselves in the story, making the viewer want the priest to die.
You don't feel very positive about the priest.
Yeah.
And to be honest, up till that point, as you said, the priest, his actions, his words have all been logical.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't always been right, but they've been logical.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's where I don't know if it's part of the people making it going, hey, we're running out of money. We've done all this amazing scenery shots. Let's find a way to finish this off. Whether it was just them going, hey, we have had an anti-Christian tone all the way through this movie. Let's just ramp it up another notch.
And then, what's the very final scene?
Well, in the final scene,
they actually talk about God.
Yeah, because Michael Caine is taking his troop out of the valley. They've heard that there's actually going to be some progress in the war. They join a battle. They win the battle, but his troop basically gets wiped out.
Yep.
And he's dying on a horse on his way back. Again, Gruber has made an absolutely rational decision. He's basically kept the troops alive so that he can learn from them, so that he can defend his village in the future.
Yep.
Lays an ambush for the captain and the remaining men of his troop, but the captain's dying anyway. Mm-hmm. And so the captain has a scene at the end where he basically...
talks to the scholar.
Talks to the scholar, says that he regrets making his decision. He'd actually...
leave the valley.
Yeah, leave the valley. He had actually fallen in love with the wife who he won in a game of dice. And he says, if you ever come back to God, tell him, and then he dies.
Yep.
So there's a man who is obviously on the path back to God because he's had a humbling experience, and he's realizing that he's not the sole arbiter of his destiny.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's a thing where it sort of comes to the end of it, and it acknowledges that God does exist, but humans are fallible, essentially.
Yeah.
Again, it kind of ties it all off quite nicely, but it was a very abrupt change.
Yes.
You didn't see anything between the battle and that scene. Again, it seemed like a movie that could be great, but for some reason, something happened at the end of it.
I reckon if they changed 5 or 10 different, just little parts in the movie, it could have been absolutely brilliant. But there are a few little things that you just look at and you go, "Oh, that stunt was terrible." That dialogue was.
Do you know what? I can forgive just action sequences which aren't quite what they are now or something like that. That's okay.
Yeah.
To me, it was just...
I mean, it was made in 1970, so...
Yeah, to me, it was more the screenplay. So much thought had obviously been done, and they had just those brilliant moments where it was just pure power and pure humanity.
Yeah.
And then, just to just to tie it off at the end.
And one thing that I don't know whether I mentioned in the original review, the music.
Yes, great.
The music is superb. Yeah. It's just, and it's so obscure, and I can't believe that music that beautiful is just, you never hear it.
Yeah, I guess maybe because the movie flopped.
That's right. The movie was a big flop. It was a very expensive movie, and it didn't go anywhere. But the music is fantastic, and we've had musical hits off flops before, but obviously didn't happen this time. Yeah, right. Did you, as a musician, what did you think of the music?
I enjoyed it. I can't remember any of it, but like immediately after we were sort of we were sort of singing it.
Yeah.
So it was quite fun. It added to just the movie. I got to say, I haven't seen a movie like that before.
No.
There's just one reason to watch it. It's others, you see the same tropes. Like I talk about the Rise of Skywalker basically being a remake of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
This I have not seen a movie.
I can't think of another movie that has 4 strong male characters who are all equally important. Yeah. And the female characters are like, well, we can take them or leave them. But it's really a story about men, male relationships.
Well, they really do take or leave the women. They're making the decisions completely independently of the women. Exactly right.
Now, I want to make 2 final points, not about The Last Valley, but I forgot something about Star Wars.
Yes.
Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, I'm looking at IMDb, and its rating is 7.0, which is actually a realistic score.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's that outrageous.
It wasn't awful. Yeah, that's the best thing I can say about the last Star Wars. It wasn't awful.
And I would like to point out something about the Star Wars world, the universe, that most people miss.
It's not real.
Some people do need that reminding. But I actually heard the actor who did the voice for Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, yes.
And he said, people really hated the character and so forth, but the reason the character was there was for children.
Oh, yes.
And young teenagers, and they love Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And they grow up watching these movies, and Jar Jar Binks is one of their favourite characters.
Interestingly, I used to love the Ewoks when I was a kid, and then I found out as I got older that older people hated the Ewoks.
Exactly right. Yeah. And that's why the Ewoks were there as well,
yep.
to attract the younger people. And
I even like the Ewok spin-off movie.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was one. But
there was. Right.
Yeah. And but what people wanted was they saw the first 3 movies, and then 15 years later the next 3 came along, and they wanted the movies to mature with them.
Yes.
And instead, what happened was that the movies were designed for young people.
Yeah.
And the next 3 movies, they were designed for young people. And the 3 current movies are designed for young people.
Absolutely.
So, people will be putting these 9 movies on for their children to watch for generations to come, probably. Certainly decades to come.
It's something I've noticed, like kids, they don't get why we love the original 3.
That's right, yeah. And also, and that's one of the reasons why there's so much criticism of these movies. People want them to grow as they've grown, and that's not what they want. They want young people, and one of the reasons is so they can sell them toys.
Yes. Well, if the critiques of the movie serve as a red pill for people, then good. If we wallow in just the critiques of the movie, then it's not a good thing.
Now, I wanted to finish with one final point about Cats. Now, Cats is a very successful stage musical. It's been around for nearly 40 years. They've made a movie, not for the first time, of Cats, and most people are appalled. Now, again, I'm on IMDb. Have a look at that score and read it out.
2.6.
2.6.
Is it because they got that fat Aussie chick in it?
I don't know. Every people are saying that everything about it is terrible. It's not that long, but it's boring.
Right.
There is
It's
just, I don't know, people aren't liking it.
Well, Hollywood is all out of ideas. Like the people who run Hollywood have essentially been parasiting off the stories of our people. Yeah, they've been parasiting off the stories of our people and the life force of our people for 100 years. So eventually you're going to run out.
Yeah. So I thought I'd just end on that point. 2.6 on IMDb is astonishingly low.
Okay.
Astonishing.
Okay. What's Rotten Tomatoes?
All right, let's have a look at Rotten Tomatoes.
People bear with us for a few minutes. Just talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you some thinking music.
Is that original?
That's from A New Hope. Yeah. One thing I've noticed, like as a fan of Dream Theater, they've been going for like 20 years, and the younger generation like their newer stuff. But I'm like, they've just been rehashing they've been rehashing their old stuff. Actually, for the last 15 years, they've been rehashing it. But all the younger generation who've got into them since love their new stuff. They hate their old stuff. So that's a great point you make. Like, yeah, the kids they see the original Star Wars and they probably they see too much of the string. They're like, what's going on?
All right. So Cats on Rotten Tomato, the critics 18%, audience 60%.
It's not high for either, really.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Where can people find more of your thinking?
Bypass Facebook. Facebook is dying and they're giving me regular holidays. So come straight to the XYZ, xyz.net.au. You can check us out on Gab and also Telegram. Also have a listen to our live streams where we blab on for a while on Monday night with Maddie Rose Live and Thursday nights on The Uncockables. And we've got to get you on that too, actually, Mark.
Yeah, we do. And I'm Mark Moncrief, and you can find more of my thinking at Upon Hope. Just type that into your favourite search engine, and you'll be able to find me. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.